Collective Reality is an interactive augmented reality project that engages citizens of marginalized neighborhoods in imagining the future of their urban environment. Conventional urban development requires the expenditure of capital and significant resources, doubling the privilege of wealth with the exclusive ability to imagine the future. Our application is meant to be a community design tool that decouples wealth and imagination in order to empower citizens from all socioeconomic backgrounds. The original team composed faculty from Talbot College, myself, Laida, and McLain, Mark Lindquist, a faculty member from the University of Michigan School of the Environment, whose research focuses on the role of digital technology in community engagement, and personnel from Land Studio, a nonprofit organization focusing on public art and landscape in Cleveland, Ohio. Through our collaboration at Land Studio, we arrived at the Slavic Village neighborhood in Cleveland as a site for our project. Land Studio's model of practice relies on relationships they have built with community development corporations and other community-oriented groups throughout Greater Cleveland. One of the most important of these relationships is with Slavic Village development. Cleveland, and Slavic Village in particular, were severely affected by the foreclosure crisis. Whole blocks were wiped out in the neighborhood, as was the economic stability achieved in the neighborhood in the early 2000s. SVD led the response to this disaster in their neighborhood, with approaches including demolition of abandoned and deteriorating structures, rehabilitation of many properties, and new construction. With Land Studio's guidance, SVD has embraced the arts and creative placemaking as a tool to revitalize the neighborhood's public realm. The strong working relationship Land has developed with the community in Slavic Village made Slavic Village seem like an ideal testing ground for this research. This prototyping phase of the project culminated in an installation in a public storefront space in Slavic Village that is intended to be a laboratory for the development of the collective reality software, in dialogue with the intended users. Composing a material palette of figural foam parts, steel frames, and digital objects that have been crowdsourced from digital photographs taken by the neighborhood residents, the installation includes tablets loaded with our augmented reality application that can recognize the foam figures when viewed through the steel frames. When the figures are recognized, the software prompts the user to interact with and manipulate digital models that appear on screen. The concept was that the public nature of the storefront on Fleet Avenue, a revitalizing commercial corridor, would entice people to visit the installation. Once inside, we would introduce them to the opportunity to participate by taking digital photographs of elements in their urban environment that were somehow meaningful to them. Those photographs would be emailed to the team and converted to digital models using photogrammetry software. And then visitors could come back the following week to find their photographs converted into digital models and featured within the AR installation. In doing so, the community members model modes of interaction that will be essential to the development of the collective reality software. Each week of the installation, we learned from the interaction community members had with our software, tweaking and adjusting it accordingly, and loading new digital objects into the software derived from photographs taken by community members. The design of the storefront installation was meant to work between the constraints of machinic vision and human occupation. In other words, our foam elements were designed to have visual qualities that we knew were easy to recognize by our software, which essentially has to do with edge recognition, while they were also scaled to the body to prompt sitting, gathering, and play. The scattered organization of the foam elements were meant to prompt meandering and different configurations of social gathering, while the frames throughout the exhibition were thought of as prompts that would help participants to understand where to point the iPads in order to activate the AR. By the second week of the installation, and with some input from visitors to the exhibition, we were able to get the AR software running well, after considerable debugging and adjusting for the lighting conditions in the storefront. What has not worked as well to this point is the level of community participation. We have had some visitors, mostly from the design community, and have worked with LAN and SVD on social media campaigns to try to get certain community groups to visit, but the turnout has frankly not been what we had hoped. Our next steps are to continue to develop the project, tweaking the software to be more tolerant to varied lighting conditions, and taking the project to contexts where we might find more active participation. We are actively seeking further funding and have applied for opportunities such as the Knight Foundation's Immersive Technology and the Arts Grant. Ultimately, we would like to make the software more freely and readily available on a range of platforms, and to find a community partner somewhere that will work with us to collectively design a public space through the software and its capacity to expand access to imagination and about the urban environment. And I'll end with this slide with our team. And yeah, thank you.